Subnautica is an open world survival horror game that is often seen as the gold standard of what an open world survival horror game should be. And on top of that, of what an indie game should be as well. It offers everything that you want. It offers immersion, it offers great sound effects, great survival mechanics, and of course, it just has great immersion as well. So it wasn't an accident that this game was extremely successful, and of course that it went on to sell 6 million copies, with its expansion in total selling 16 million copies. So of course the fan base was extremely excited that there was going to be a Subnautica 2, which was highly anticipated and more than likely was going to sell a bunch of copies even in early access. So naturally, the fanbase went crazy when Subnautica 2 was announced, and rightfully so. Subnautica, the expansion pack that they released, was critically acclaimed and people loved it. And of course, it became one of the most anticipated titles that was going into early access later in 2025. And while it was announced for early access in 2025, recently Krafton has come out and said the publishing team that publishes Subnautica, and it was going to publish Subnautica 2, came out and delayed Subnautica 2 early access to 2026. Naturally, this raised some eyebrows in the community, because why would you announce it and say that it's ready for 2025 and then your publishing company says that it's not close to ready and that you're going to delay it in 2026, not giving you any reasons beside the fact that they want a quality early access release, and just basically giving you your basic PR response that really didn't answer any questions, but more made people want to ask more questions. And of course, naturally, everybody turned into The Rock and started raising even more eyebrows when the co-founders of the game were fired and really weren't giving any notice as to why. But of course, this morning we have found out that there is correlation between the delay of the game of Subnautica 2 and the firing of the co-founders of Subnautica and the team that made Subnautica, which is Unknown Worlds. Remember how I mentioned that this game was more than likely going to sell really well, considering that the first game was critically acclaimed. It was an indie that did everything right and what everybody wanted, the gold standard of a survival open world horror game with great mechanics, great sound design, great survival mechanisms, you know, the whole deal of everything that was great with Subnautica. So naturally, they saw the numbers that were going to come out for Subnautica and they were going to hit a certain amount of numbers. Well, it turns out that there was a contract with the developers and the co-founders of Unknown Worlds that if it hit a certain amount of numbers, that they were going to get a bonus of $250 million, which yes, is a lot of money, but is well deserved considering that it was them who made the game and who was there to incubate the game into what it turned into today. And of course, Krafton has come out and denied the allegations that the reason why the co-founders were fired in the first place was because of the bonus, and of course they're gonna deny it. That's what they're going to do. But the co-founders of Unknown Worlds had something else to say about that they were completely shocked that they were even fired in the first place, and the only reason that they can think of why they were fired and why the game was delayed is because they had to hit those numbers at a certain timeline in order to get that bonus, and Krafton wasn't willing to do that because Subnautica was going to be a substantial hit to the point where they were going to hit those numbers and they more than likely were going to sell around 25 million copies and probably 5 to 10 million copies with early access. That's just me speculating, but from what I've seen on the hype, I would not doubt that early access was going to have at least 5 million players and at the most 10 million players. And of course, with more sales, it means that you are able to pocket a bigger percentage of the game that you're promise, but at the same time, if you have to pay bonus, that's less money that the CEOs and the publishers are able to keep. And I want to make things clear, and I do this a lot with a lot of publishers or corporations to make clear that Krafton is not hurting for money. Krafton publishes a lot of games, one of the biggest games of the last 10 years, which is PUBG. It makes them a crap ton of money to this day, even though it's not as popular. These are the same people that threw a bunch of money at the Callisto protocol and have a bunch of other games that they publish. They are not hurting for money. This is a prime example of what we've been seeing in the gaming entertainment sector, of companies being completely greedy and not understanding that the people that you hired in the first place, the people who made these games, are the reason why your games are even selling in the first place, and why this game is even critically acclaimed and anticipated to sell as many copies as they were in early access. The co-founders agree that the game is more than ready for early access, and let's be real, guys, early access games aren't exactly supposed to be perfect. They're early access for a reason, so they can get feedback from the player base in order to make the game better and hit the way it is supposed to release once it comes out of early access. Baldur's Gate 3 is an example of how you do early access and how you improve your game with feedback. Subnautica is also a good example of what you do in early access in order to make the feedback and changes that you need to make for your game. And while at this point is a he said, she said situation, but at the same time, I tend to not trust corporations and giant publishers, especially when they have the obligation to pay almost $250 million to two people. They more than likely didn't want to do that, and this is one of the grossest things possible that I've seen. And I hope the backlash for this game is big, because those two co-founders are the reason why Subnautica is so good. They're the reason why the game is doing the numbers that it's doing, or has done the numbers that it's doing, and it is going to do the number that it's going to do with Subnautica 2. Personally, I will believe the guy who was getting $20 bills in the mail in order to survive to make the game and the company that he wanted to make. And yeah, I can't emphasize more that the greed this generation of publishing companies, of game companies in the entertainment sector of gaming, have completely lost touch of exactly what they need to do to make money, and that is to let developers make the games that you originally let them make in order for you to make a crap ton of money. The $250 million that you were going to give them was going to get paid back in tenfold, because this game was going to sell a lot. Not only was it going to sell a lot on Steam for early access or when it comes out fully, but it's also going to make a lot of money once it releases on consoles. I would not doubt that this game would have gone on to sell 25 million copies, which is plenty of money, and is only fair that the co-founders get their payout for all the hard work that they did, and again, for incubating the talent that they have, and for incubating the idea that they have to even make a sequel in the first place. I like to say that I'm surprised, but I am not. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think that there is more to this story? What do you think about the co-founders being outed? Do you think it has to do with money? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And remember, you're pretty good.